Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. In March, on the 9th, I will be running a leadership workshop in conjunction with Coffee Fest at Coffee Fest in New York. Head to coffeefest.com/leadership, or you can check out our events page, mapitforward.org/events, and you can take a look at the workshop that's called Foundational Leadership and Culture for the hospitality industry. It's great. I'm excited about this content. We've never done this workshop before, and it's going to be fantastic. You will leave having actual skills that you can apply immediately in the cafe that you own. It's not just the cafe, it's all kinds of leadership across the hospitality industry, whether it's in a roastery or a cafe or, all kinds of situations. It's the end of Friday and my brain is a wee bit fried. It's been a long day. This is the second podcast for today. Anyway, mapitforward.org/events or coffeefest.com/leadership. For our sponsorship message today, check out the show notes. I'm so excited to announce that across all of New South Wales, they got rain today, so that really helped put out bushfires, but they have a huge amount of work that needs to be done for recovery. So head to our show notes and click on the rural fire services and the animal welfare funds to help them out. Today on the Daily Coffee Pro, we are looking at episode 5 in a series of 5 that is about professionalism for coffee employees. And today we are talking in the last episode of that 5-part series on the mistakes to avoid when you are a coffee professional. Man, do I have a wealth of experience to draw on for this one. God, I messed up on lots of stuff, and I see people mess up in different ways than I messed up, and I see people mess up in the same ways that I messed up. So I want to talk a little bit about that. You are going to hear me explain how much of a fool I have been in my career, and you are going to hear me talk about some things that I'm looking forward to, a blog post that I'm going to write down the track, which is probably next week actually, that is things I learnt about how I could have been a better employee now that I'm an employer. And I tell you, I say that because I am seeing some things online that some people are demanding of their current or future employers, which leads me to the first thing that I want to talk about. Some mistakes to avoid. And I look at what they're doing and I think, yeah, fuck shit. I did that kind of stuff when I was in the very early days of my career. And okay, so here we go. When you're looking at how to find the right employer, be really deliberate about that. I think that's something that I did well. I was very aware of choosing the places that I wanted to work, and I was very strategic about that. But what I didn't do well, and this is absolutely a mistake I made, and I see many of the people that were around me at the time and that are coffee professionals at the moment who are employees do the same thing, is you make absolutely unrealistic demands of people who are your potential or current employers, and you think that they're assholes because they can't accept those terms. Being an employer and a business owner, I'm so ashamed of some of the things that I look back on and think, oh my God, I can't believe that I demanded that of somebody. And I am seeing some things online where there are people that are doing the same thing now. So I saw something online the other day where somebody said that they will only work for people who will give them unlimited access to the store and to the resources of the store so that they can prepare for competition. And if they question that, they would be no longer going to work for that employer. And I think, look, I get competition's way more important now than it used to be. And I really love the wokeness of millennials and Gen Z. But there's a practicality as a business owner to the idea of giving you free access to the resources that go into running a business. And the reason I say that is because it's simply going to sink a business. If a cafe owner gives you access to use all the coffee and all the milk and all of the other resources that come with having a cafe that you want, you're eating away at my bottom line. And real talk, guys, like 3%, we have said this before many, many times on this podcast. The net profit margins that cafes have at the end of a year is 3%. They still have to pay tax on that 3%. If you listened to the conversation that I just had with Ariana Hartstrom from Costa Oro, you will hear that she said it was 12 years before she could pay herself a salary. I live on barely nothing, and that's just the way it goes when you own your own business. You have to believe in it as much as possible. And a part of believing in it as much as possible is realizing that you're going to live on the poverty line for who knows how long. But that's a part of the story. So the very first mistake that I see many coffee professionals make is having unrealistic expectations and demands of their employers. Go in with an open mind, go in asking for things rather than demanding things. I heard a great one. I refuse to work anywhere that isn't inclusive. And I think that that's an important statement. I think the two gifts that millennials and that Gen Z have given humanity is this focus on inclusivity. And Gen X and boomers can't thank you enough, particularly the minorities and women in those generations, because you have really put a focus on those issues, and it's great. But be careful going into a workplace saying, I won't work here unless it's inclusive, because first of all, people are still evolving. Second of all, it's an unrealistic demand to make of a workplace that is still learning how to do those kinds of things. And third of all, what does it really mean to be inclusive if you're being exclusive in the first place? So going in, requesting, asking for, negotiating for things rather than demanding is the first big thing I'd caution you about that will help you be seen as more professional. You will get more done of what you're trying to get done if you don't go in demanding. In the first example of somebody who wants to be a competition barista or a competition roaster, so instead of going in and saying, if I'm going to take this job, I have to have open access to everything and no questions can be asked. That's literally what I'm hearing people say to potential future employers. A different way to say that is, so listen, I'd like to be a competition roaster or barista, and I'd love this to be the place that I establish that foundation. What can we work out? Is that something that's important to you as an employer, to have people who are going out there and representing themselves as professionals and perhaps representing your brand? And is there a way that you can sponsor me in exchange for me wearing the t-shirt or me talking about where I'm working in exchange for me having access to these resources, and name them? So, okay, that's one mistake. Another mistake that I hear people make is this idea that they know better than everybody else. They know everything there is to know about everything there is to know about. And I would invite you to the alternative of that, which is open-mindedness. We suffer a lot from this in our industry, and I don't know if it's just our industry. I don't know if it's a sign of the times or whatever, but I meet a lot of people who are convinced that they know everything that there is to know about coffee. And look, it's just simply not the case. I would invite you to, instead of going into a workplace and being convinced that you already know more than everybody else that works there, if it's a new workplace, I would encourage you to perhaps go in and receive information. Go in and become accustomed to the culture of the workplace. Figure out how it flows. Ask ahead of time at interview. What's the kind of general knowledge base of this workplace? Other questions to ask are things like, what role would you like me to play with regards to education here? Am I being hired as a head barista? Or am I being hired as just a general barista? Further to that, I would like to add, it is, unless you're being hired as a manager or a head barista, it is inappropriate for you to go in there. And I'm laughing because I did this. It is inappropriate for you to go in there and change shit up because it does not suit the way that you do things. My God, I'm so embarrassed when I think of, in the very early stages of my career, the places that I turned up at and just went, I can't do this. Who the fuck did I think I was? Like, looking back at it, I'm like, Jesus, what a little snob I was. And it was different times. It was like nearly 20 years ago now and all that kind of stuff. But you think about it and you're like, God, it's just cringeworthy when you look at what you were like as a puppy barista and you think that you knew everything. And we were all pretending back then. We didn't have anything that was any kind of solid details about what specialty coffee was. We were all making it up as we go. So don't go into a workplace and change everything up to the way that you need it to be simply because you think that you're the best barista that existed and your way is going to be the best way just because it's your way. It's the arrogance that I look at my early career and I'm embarrassed about it. Anyway, the third thing that I want to talk about that is a mistake that people commonly make is that we don't learn the soft skills. And I'm particularly talking about communication skills here. We tend to focus on things like how to brew coffee, how to roast coffee, how to buy coffee, how to sell coffee, how to do all of that stuff. But what we're not focusing on is how do we communicate directly? How do we improve our assertiveness skills? How do we listen? How do we learn empathy? These are going to be important life skills that will serve you the rest of your career. And they will set you out as the kind of professional that any employer would be proud to have on their team. People who have these skills are easily cultivated into leaders. So I would encourage you to not make the mistake of thinking, well, because I brew amazing espresso, that's enough for somebody to want me on their team. It's not. You become like, divas are just too much work to have on a team. And if the choice is to have a diva or replace a diva that makes coffee that's 75% as good or 50% as good, much of the time people are going to choose to go with someone who isn't a diva because it's just too emotionally taxing to have to manage that person's emotions. The other thing that I'm seeing, and the last thing that we'll talk about that is a mistake that I see happening, is these mobs, these groups that seem to be converging in our industry. And I would caution you from this kind of behavior. And the only reason is if you're going to become a part of like a woke brigade, if you're going, and again, I'm going to keep saying this, I am all for wokeness. I wish more people were awake to their consciousness and to the decisions that they are consciously making about everything that they're doing. So I don't want anyone to think like, oh, look at her, she's like being a boomer. I'm not a boomer. I am very into the ideas that are progressive. I'm a big fan of that. But what I'm not a big fan of is these people that virtue signal each other, and because they can see that other people want to belong somewhere, they'll signal them to join their group and let's all stand up for insert movement here. Think for yourself. And if you can think independently and stick up for people when they rightfully need help, if you can stand up for an injustice when it's happening, rather than needing that to be at the forefront of everything that you stand for every minute that you're at work, that's the kind of professional that people want to have a part of their team. That's the kind of person that people want to be helping them build a brand and becoming a part of a brand. And you know what the payback for all of this is. So, we talked all this week about professionalism for employees. What do you get out of being professional? Because I'm against work being just about an exchange of money. Anyone that works for me or has worked for me in the past, whether they be as someone who I have as an outsourced employee or as somebody on my team, I want to know that when they leave me, they left in better condition than they came to me. And I have said that since my music days. Any band member that was a part of my band or a part of my crew or the people who did my makeup or hair or any of that, even if all we were doing was engaging for one conversation, I wanted them to feel that they left that experience better off than they came to it. So what should you get out of this thing that is professionalism? Well, if you are a professional, the people around you want to cultivate you to become the best version of yourself that you can be. You becoming the best version of yourself that you can be and them having a hand in that, first of all, it makes us as employers very proud of you. It makes us very proud and very humbled to be a part of your growth. And second of all, you go on to do the same thing for other people. So not only is you being a professional helping my business, not only is it helping my customers, but it motivates me even more to want to do 10 times what you've done for me for you. And that's if you've chosen the right employer. I really hope that this series on professionalism for coffee employees has been helpful for you. Our next series is going to be on mentorship. And this is going to be fun. I thought about this earlier today and thought, yeah, we need to talk about mentorship, because a lot of people are confused about, well, what should my mentor do for me? And other people are confused about, like, if I'm going to mentor someone, should I charge them for it? Or, hey, I'm ready to be a mentor, but I don't know how to find people who need to be mentored. So next week is going to be about mentoring. And from the bottom of my heart, I hope that if you're an employee or an employer that watched this series, that you got a lot out of it. On that note, peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.